Welcome into the third ever edition here of Unnecessary Wagers. I'm Liam Barwick here with Nick DiMartino as always. And Nick, crazy week in both NFL, but especially in college. It was a crazy weekend.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I was watching The Herd yesterday, and Colin Cowherd literally went on the air and said, "It was a light week in college football." Light week? Are you freaking
Yeah,
kidding me? Light week? Uh, it was a great weekend for college football.
yeah, it
Um,
was a great weekend. It was a crazy weekend. Um, Obviously, we sort of had not similar, but we both ended up on the different sides. You had Tennessee getting the 3.5. I had Tennessee on the money line, which was just brutal. Tennessee choked away that game. Forget about the field goal where they should have. They ran a play on third down when they should have kicked it on third down. They miss a field goal, lose in overtime. But I mean, they were leading the entire game. They were up 8, and Georgia just went down the field without any defense from Tennessee. Even the 2-point conversion, the guy was wide open for days. So it was a near bad beat, which
yeah.
I saw you say on leftovers. It was
It was a
almost
it was a
made.
cl it was a bad beat close call, which is I think another thing that should I don't think we should just have bad beats. I think we should have bad beat close calls because that was a bad beat close call right there. And it would have been a bad beat, I think, if Georgia had won the coin toss. Because I think Georgia would have just gone right down the field, scored, and then Tennessee would have probably failed to get into the end zone.
Right.
How far was that kick? By the way, Max Gilbert, the kicker for Tennessee, he looks like he's 15 years old.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's not far off, but it wasn't even to me. It wasn't even the distance. It was so if you didn't see it, it was third down. They were, I think it was 30. It was going to be 37 and went to 42. So it was going to be a 37-yard field goal. They were at the 20. They tried to run a play to go up the middle. Which first of all, I always think you should kick on third down, but secondly, they went to run a play. They got called for the false start, which fucked them up. So then they ended up not running the play and made it a 5-yard longer field goal. He missed the field goal. Wasn't even close. But even to get into that position, I mean, Tennessee was up 10, or they were 14 actually at one point in the game. They were leading for most of the game. They looked like the much better team in the first quarter and a half. And then toward the end of the second quarter, Georgia started to take over. But very non-defensive game. It's very odd to see Georgia's defense play like that, even though they did win the game.
Well, I guess you do see you are right about that, and I think a lot of that was just the product of them being the road team. They wouldn't have given up that many points against Tennessee at home, but I think a lot of that's also just Tennessee's defense just isn't good. And that's always been the case. Like most of my lifetime, Tennessee's had terrible defenses. And Georgia's offense is not like this high-powered dynamic offense. They have like no playmakers anywhere.
Yeah.
Look at last year. They had no playmakers on offense last year. They have no playmakers on offense this year, and also a bit of a downgrade at quarterback. So, like, it's not even like Georgia has this great offense. Like, they really don't.
Yeah. You also had Texas A&M +7, which was another crazy game. Another game where the team was winning the entire game. Notre
Yeah.
Dame was winning close to the entire game. Went for a 2-point conversion that they didn't get, and then ended up losing by 1 point. Very odd situation there.
Well, they also that was because they dropped the holder dropped
Mhm.
the ball. He dropped the snap on an extra point.
Yeah, earlier in the game. Yeah, a tough loss for Notre Dame. Really, Notre Dame is really up against it. Um, they have to win out, and they honestly might have to win out and still need some chaos to ensue. Um,
Yeah, Notre Dame in yeah, Notre like that is just a terrible way to lose. And I really had a feeling that Texas A like I took Texas A&M plus the 6.5. I didn't pick it on the show, but I also took the over in that game, and I really that was
mhm,
also good instincts. Um, Notre Dame has to win that game.
yeah,
They just have to win that game. A home game against Texas A&M. Texas A&M is like It's not even like Texas A&M is at the top of the SEC. Texas A&M at the very best is in the middle of the SEC.
And especially when you're winning the whole game. I mean,
Yeah, and they were winning the whole game. Notre Dame had no business losing that game. If they don't drop that extra point on the snap, they probably win that game. And Texas A&M's passing game, like Marcel Reed threw the ball a lot more than I expected him to.
Mhm.
And it's not even like they were all that efficient. Like they just threw the ball a bunch of times, and they were able to it was able to just add up to a lot of points. I didn't think it would be. Okay, so Marcel Reed, he literally went 17 for 37. So it's not even like he played this great game. He wasn't like an efficient passer. He just threw the ball a bunch of times and was able to throw for 360 yards.
Yeah.
And that's how they ended up winning. But in terms of Notre Dame, like they don't even control their own destiny. They don't
Right.
even control their own destiny. I mean, if they go 10-2, they can still get in because other teams are also gonna like step in
Right.
landmines in their schedule. But I think it mostly depends on what happens in the ACC, the SEC, and Michigan
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
And like those three teams, I think outside of and then USC obviously, but Notre Dame and USC can't both get in. It's going to be at the very best. It's going to be the winner of that matchup. The ACC, if the ACC only gets one team, the Big 12 will almost certainly only get one team, and it depends on whether the SEC can get and Big 10 can get 3 or 4 teams. Like if there's 7 teams between the SEC and the Big 10, one team for the Big 12, the at-large bid, that's 9. One ACC team, that's 10. Then Notre Dame can probably get in if they go 10-2. But outside of USC, the problem with Notre Dame's schedule is that it's not really necessarily easy. Like not all of these games are super easy, but they're not going to get any credit for them if they end up winning them. I mean, the best team that they can beat for the remaining of their schedule for the remainder of their schedule is it's just USC. Like
Yeah.
USC, that's it.
Yeah. Then we LSU beat Florida, all-time crash out in the press conference by Brian Kelly after he got asked why he didn't run the ball. Both of our locks lost in college. Colorado just have completely fallen off the map.
South Carolina.
All-time no-show by South Carolina.
Unbelievable.
4.5 and barely scored 4.5. Got beat 31-7. In the NFL, we were at it. Complete no-show by the Jets. Embarrassing performance there, which had the +7.
Yeah, that was no. And we were both at that game, which made it so much more torturous. Like, I don't understand like how some people have Jet or like Jets season ticket holders and go to like every home game at like 1:00, and I'm just like you're just stuck there watching this shit show, completely disconnected from the outside football world with all the other games going on at 1:00. It's one of the reasons why people say that like football is the worst sport to see live.
Yeah. That was the Giants played their best game in years and lost. Unbelievably bad defensive performance by them. Good performance by Russell Wilson, but just a terrible defensive performance. And just again, an awful way to lose. And the Giants seem to lose on 60-yard field goals more than any other team I've ever seen. They've lost a ton of those games. We were both wrong on the Dolphins, who ended up getting beat. They look terrible. Monday Night Football in 2 weeks, by the way, is Dolphins-Jets, which is going to be sickening for the rest of America. We were both wrong about the Chiefs. They did not play a great game. Eagles went into Kansas City and won. I took a bad beat with the Broncos -1.5, who looked like they had won the game, and then were called for a penalty, a leverage penalty on the last field.
That was just unbelievable.
Terrible rule too.
I don't think I've ever seen anything. I don't think I've ever seen a team give a game away like that.
Yeah. That was a bad loss. And it looks like the Colts are possibly going to win that division now. If you look at the other games that happened last night, I was thanking God last night because I did have the Texans plus 2.5, and Tampa Bay went for a 2-point conversion that would have covered. That was going to be brutal. But so let's look at last week. I was 4 for 9, down 21 units. You were 9 and 4. Or sorry, I was 4 and 9. You were 9 and 4, up 13 units. So the total, I'm 8 and 17, or 8 and 18, down 39 units, and you are 15 and 11, up 28 units. I have missed all of my locks so far, so that has really hurt me in the units category. But without further ado,
But how about our money line picks?
I lost mine. I had Tennessee. You won yours. You had you had Atlanta beating Minnesota.
Okay, so I won that one.
Yeah, you had Atlanta plus 180.
How are we calculating the money line picks compared to with units?
So it's 1 unit, and then you win whatever the odds are.
Oh, okay. So the Falcons were like,
They were plus 180. You had them at.
okay, so that's plus 180.
So it was plus 1.8 units.
1.8, right. 1.8 units. Okay.
All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to start, as always, in college. I'm going to go for the very last game of the day to start off my picks with my 1 unit play. I've got Fresno State and Hawaii over 47.5. Fresno State have scored over 30 2 times this year. Hawaii have given up over 30 2 times this year. And Fresno State, a team that I'm always going to look at and take an over 47.5, quite a low over for those 2 teams. So my 1 unit play is going to be Fresno State and Hawaii over 47.5.
All right. So my 1 unit play, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I feel like I have to until they prove me wrong. I'm taking Sam Houston plus 40.5 over Texas. Texas has just not like the thing is, I don't think Texas is even going to put up 40 points from the way that they're playing, and they're 40.5 point favorites. I mean, they have just looked so bad. Arch Manning has just been missing wide open receivers. I'm not going to overreact to how he's starting out like some other people are, because I just don't think it's fair to him. It's just because his last name is Manning, and ultimately being a Manning has hurt him way more than it's helped him. But from the way Texas has been playing, I don't know if I could trust them to cover a 40.5 point spread against Teaneck High School, from the way they've been playing. I don't even know if they're going to put up 40. And they just look like a team that's going through a whole bunch of growing pains. And they're lucky that they're like early in the season, they're getting it all out now. I think it might not matter in the end, but they just don't look good at all. Like, it's not even just like against Ohio State, I kind of chalked it up to them playing Ohio State in a tough environment, and then they'd really get it together, but they haven't gotten it together. Arch Manning has not looked good at all. He's missing wide open receivers. They're not scoring a lot of points. I don't know. I don't think they're going to put up 40. I think they're going to win by a lot. I think I can see them winning more like a score of like 38-7 or something like that, but I don't think there's any way they cover the spread.
Yeah. They haven't started great, but by their standards, definitely, or what was expected of them.
Yeah, we'll watch them win 50-0.
Right. Well, that was that. That was like almost like the end of the Penn State game where Penn State was minus 48.5. And
I can't believe. Yeah, we should have talked about that. That was. You want to talk about bad? Like, I didn't touch that game because I don't usually like to touch these really big spreads. I don't think teams usually cover really big spreads like that, like 48.5. It's like, teams usually call the dogs off at some point. Like, even if you have all your starters in, the defense is not trying as hard at that point in the game. So I don't like those kinds of spreads. So I'm like things like that are why I never take those kinds of spreads, because it's just like I can't trust anybody to cover it. But that is an all-time bad beat, because if you look at the throw, it was like it wasn't a Hail Mary exactly because it was close to the goal line, but the quarterback had no idea where that ball was going. He just threw it across his body, And the receiver made a one-handed catch. Like, it's unbelievable Villanova has receivers that can make one-handed catches.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that was bad. And James Franklin called a timeout on the third down there, which he famously did against Georgia State too, where he called the
Yeah,
timeout.
yeah. So he could win 56-0.
Yeah, yeah. My 2 point play going to go to the ACC in-state matchup. I was actually surprised at this line because Duke has not looked great through their first 3 games. NC State plus 3.5 at Duke. I would also take this on the money line. I mean, NC State is 3-0. They've looked a lot better than Duke has. Duke has looked bad. I picked them a couple of weeks ago against Illinois, and they just completely shat the bed. They have not looked great this season. So I didn't understand this line at first, but I'm going to take it. I've got North Carolina State plus 3.5 against Duke.
All right. So my 2-unit pick is I love USC minus 17.5 versus Michigan State. I think USC is going to have a little bit of a comeback year. It's a home game for USC. Jaden Mayava, their quarterback, has been way better. Their quarterback has been a huge upgrade. I mean, last year they went through a bunch of. They had a season like Michigan. They just went through a bunch of quarterbacks. Michigan State, their over under for wins is like 6.5, so they're most likely like a 500.
You already have 3.
Yeah, well, I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I just looked on DraftKings. It's 6.
Yeah, so I'm saying they're probably not going to win much more.
No, they're not going to win much more. So I really like USC here. USC is going to be I'm telling you, USC is going to have a little. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but it looks like a little bit of a comeback year. They completely revamped their entire roster in the offseason. So and their quarterback play is much better. So I'm going with USC minus 17.5 at home.
Yeah, the game's actually at 11 o'clock at night too.
So I'll be able to watch it.
Right, and they killed Purdue on
Yeah.
Saturday. They ran through Purdue easily. That was an easy win. But yeah, I thought they were, again, I don't think that they're going to do much, but in terms of playoff, but I think they were sort of overlooked too when we talked about the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And going into the season, obviously you had Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, but I think USC was overlooked, and it just shows you how a lot of these conferences now, since realignment, specifically the Big Ten and SEC, they're so much deeper than you could imagine.
Well, especially the SEC. I think the SEC is really deep. I feel like the Big Ten, though, the Big Ten to an extent, I think is also fairly deep. Although I think there's a little bit of a drop off in the Big Ten, like more so than in the SEC, because in the SEC, like I feel like you can go really deep in the SEC. Like even like a lot of the bottom teams can beat a lot of the top teams.
Yeah, it's almost like college basketball now, where you have like 6 teams that are going to make the postseason in one conference.
Well, it's also because these conferences are just so big. And the other weird thing about the conference realignment is that it almost has nothing to do with geography anymore. Certainly the Big Ten, you have you have USC flying across the country to play just to play in conference games. Like we used to never see that.
Yeah. Yes. Well, speaking of that, which I won 2 games using last week using my strategy of team crossing 3 time zones, I'm going to do the same thing for my 3-point play. UNLV are 3-0. They've started off well. They actually have a pretty decent football program that kind of goes under the radar, but they are flying to play the Miami of Ohio at noon, which is 9 a.m. in Las Vegas. Miami of Ohio is getting 2.5 points. Both teams that crossed 2 time zones last week that I picked against Minnesota and Boston College lost outright. I think UNLV will lose this game outright because of the time difference, because of that travel going from Las Vegas to Ohio, which we never used to see stuff like that before realignment. I like Miami of Ohio plus 2.5, mainly because of the time difference. I like them to win the game outright, but I'll take them plus the 2.5 for my 3-point play.
All right. So I think that logic holds up pretty well.
Wait, how many people do you think have applied and gotten into the Miami of Ohio thinking it was Miami, Florida?
Honestly, that wouldn't. It's probably more people than you think, I would say.
It is. There's actually there's a like the capital city of Austria has like a desk for people who thought they were flying to Australia. Getting like that. It's like yeah, it's very confusing. But yeah, I'll take the plus 2.5.
um, all right, so I will be staying in the Big Ten for this pick, and I will be going with Michigan minus 2.5 at Nebraska. I think a lot. I think that a lot like USC, Michigan is just is going through a great is just revamping their season. Nebraska's not really all that bad either, but I like Michigan's offense much better than Nebraska's. I like that they have like a new young quarterback. I think Michigan is going to have a bit of a comeback here. I'm going and it's only a 2.5 point spread, so I'm essentially just picking a money line winner. So I'm going with Michigan minus 2.5.
Yeah, I have to tell you, when I was mapping out my picks and looking at everything and writing down picks I would have had and then cutting them down to 5, I actually had the opposite on the card. I actually like Nebraska.
You do
I think
like
Nebraska
Nebraska?
won
Why?
the game outright. They're at home, which is a tough place to play. They're a much better team than they have been over the years. I like Matt Rule as a college coach, and I think that Michigan is not fully there yet. I mean, I think that we thought Michigan was going to do a lot better against Oklahoma. I think we thought Michigan was there yet. And I just don't think they're there yet. And I think Nebraska's another under the radar Big Ten team. And I really like Matt Rule, and I like. I mean, that's a tough. Like people have underrated that's a tough place to play because they haven't been good in years. But it's not an easy place to play.
Yeah.
And I think so. Is this? I mean, is this a game where Michigan is this must win for Michigan
Um,
in terms of playoff?
Probably. I would say. I
I
mean,
mean,
I
they
haven't
do have
really.
Ohio State left, obviously, which would be a good win for them if they could win that.
I have to look at their
Yeah.
schedule. I would say it probably. I would say it probably is.
They
Uh,
don't play Penn State. Um, but they do play Michigan, obviously. They do play Ohio State,
they play
obviously.
Michigan every year.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say I would say it probably is.
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, I guess on some because you can't expect them. Even though I get that they beat Ohio State last year, but you can't expect them to beat Ohio State again this year.
Well, I don't know because you wouldn't have expected them to beat Ohio State last year at
Well,
all.
I know, but the point I'm making is that you can't. Okay, here's the thing. I wouldn't say it's a must win exactly, but if they lose, they have no margin for error, and they have to go on the road and play USC and then at home against Ohio State. What is the likelihood that Michigan wins both of those games? So, from a playoffs perspective, it kind of is a must win.
And we don't know where these teams, like again, like we didn't really talk about this with Texas A&M, but like the Notre Dame thing, it also matters how Texas A&M does the rest of the year. If Texas A&M finishes, 7-5, it looks way worse. If
Yeah,
Texas A&M finishes 12-0, which they won't, but if they were, it looks better. Same
yeah.
thing with Nebraska here, and same thing with USC. Like USC, like we said, I think USC is going to be better. But if they were to beat USC, but then USC ends up, 8-4, 7-5, it doesn't look as great.
Yeah, and I also don't think that's always totally fair because teams like change throughout the season. Like just like a lot of times teams flame out towards the end of the season, but in like September, but in September they're a pretty good team, and a lot of that just has to do with depth, injuries, things like
Right.
that. That teams change. So I don't always think it's fair. I remember like a few years ago, Utah lost to Florida on the road. And then Utah ended up winning the Pac-12, and people were like, "Oh, they lost to Florida," and it's like Florida really wasn't all that bad earlier in the season.
Right.
Then they just got a lot worse for a whole bunch of complicated reasons. So people have to keep that in mind too. Texas A&M is a team that tends to go very up and down. Usually, like the first half of the year, they tend to be pretty good. Then post Halloween, Thanksgiving, they end up with some really bad losses. So, I just don't always think that's fair. But
Yeah.
you are right about that. You are right.
Also, the other example you could give was Stanford lost their first game of the season to Northwestern, which was played at like 8 o'clock in the morning in California time, and then won the rest. That was when they had Christian McCaffrey, and
That
won.
was 10 years ago now. Yes, Stanford lost to Northwestern, a non-conference game
First
early
game
in
of
the
the season.
season. They're
Yeah.
jet lagged. And by the way, this was when we had a 14 playoff. Stanford could have competed to get with the playoff teams. I mean, that was
Mhm.
the year that Ohio State lost to Michigan State at
Mhm.
home with Michigan State's backup quarterback. And what a
Right.
disgrace that was. And then Michigan State ended up getting into the playoffs, obviously. And then they lost, they got killed by Alabama. We ended up with 2 terrible playoff games that year. I
Yeah.
remember it so vividly.
Yeah. 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 For my 4-point play, we're going to go to the ACC. By the way, another pick we forgot to talk about in the morning. I had Clemson minus 3.5, and I also took them live once they went down. Terrible loss for Clemson.
Yeah,
They're
I have lost all faith in Clemson. I
yeah,
will say I was thinking about this, and it's like, which team is it? They're not in as much trouble as Notre Dame because they still control their own destiny. Um, they just have to win the ACC. But I feel like if they don't
yeah.
win the ACC, they're not getting in.
Right. This will be a year where will be a year, especially with the way the playoff works now, where Notre Dame will be detrimented by the fact they're not in the conference,
Yeah.
especially with the automatic bids. But yeah, that was a terrible loss. I did not expect Georgia Tech to win that game. Clemson's defense was terrible toward the end of that game. Fire drill field goal they won on that was crazy. They don't play Miami in the regular season, but they could play them in the ACC championship. But if you look at their schedules, not the easiest schedule. So I think that they might be in trouble. I think,
But just like Notre Dame, it's not the easiest schedule, but they're not going to get credit for those games
but,
outside of
but
Florida State.
Clemson's has the easy trip because they could all they have to do is win the conference.
Right. No,
That's
no,
it.
but the point I'm making, like, they still have a path where they control their own destiny. And if they win, and if they end up winning the conference, they're going to be able, but outside of that win, outside of beating Florida State, they're not going to get a lot of credit for any of those wins. So they really just have no margin for error. But any of those games, I mean, I think a lot of road games against middle of the road, against average teams are a little more difficult than people think they are. Like, I don't think
Mhm.
there's as big of a talent gap between Syracuse and Clemson as people might think. So sometimes that's just kind of sometimes those kinds of wins are those kinds of games are just kind of difficult.
Yeah.
But I really just don't think Clemson's that good. I don't think the ACC. I don't think any team in the ACC honestly is that good.
No, I agree. So to segue into that, SMU last week was in an absolute dogfight with Missouri State. Absolute dogfight. They lost to Baylor earlier this year. They're playing an inner city matchup. Both these schools are in the same city versus TCU. It's at TCU. And TCU, who have looked good in their first 2 games, they ran North Carolina out of the building in the first game. They've looked good in their first 2 games. They are laying less than a touchdown, -6.5. I think TCU is another team that to watch out for, where TCU has been not great since they made that championship game. SMU might be still being a little overrated for making the playoff, but by Vegas for making the playoff last year. They're not that
Yeah.
team. It's been clear from the way they've played the start of the season. I think TCU is a team that can make a run for the Big 12 championship, which means they can make a run for the playoff. I got TCU laying 6.5 against SMU.
Yeah, I think SMU is going to be one of those teams where like they're going to be a remember when team. Like 10 years from now, we're going to be like, remember when SMU made the playoffs?
Ironically, like TCU. We're going to
Yeah,
be like,
just
when
like
TCU
TCU.
was in the national championship game. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's because I mean the difference is that SMU got in because it was a 12-team playoff. The combination of them playing a really weak schedule
Right.
and being in a and there being a 12-team playoff is why SMU made the playoffs last year. SMU is like the ultimate team that's overrated because the public wants to believe they're better than they really are. That's what SMU was last year. Like I
Yeah.
think people try to fit this like college basketball screw into a college football hole, which is that like they look at these underdog college football teams and think they're going to
Mhm.
be a Cinderella team in football, and it just doesn't work that way. That's exactly what the public was like with SMU last year. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying they
Boise
shouldn't have been a
State as
playoff
well.
team, but clearly,
Boise State as well.
yeah. Also, Boise State. Um, so I, I'm going against you in my 4 unit pick. I'm heading down south to Florida. I love Florida plus 7.5. And it's only because of that half a point. And a lot of this is that I think that, like, look, Florida is a complicated team. Every year, Florida is a little bit of a complicated team. They're usually not as bad as people think. Usually Florida, they just play a tough schedule, and I understand they just lost to South Florida, and they always have some bad losses. I completely agree, but they typically play better teams pretty tough. They tend to play up to their competition typically. They lost by 10 to LSU last week on the road, but don't forget that was kind of a lucky beat that I had LSU minus 7.5 because Florida's defense played really, really well
Their
against
offense was terrible, though.
Hmm?
Their offense was awful, though.
Their offense was awful, but Florida, here's the thing. Florida lost that game because of their offense, not because of their defense. DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions and they lost 20-10. And Brian Kelly was asked about how bad their running game was and all that. And the thing is, if I had told you that DJ Lagway was going to throw 5 interceptions before that game, you'd be like, "Oh, they're going to win. They're going to win like what, 38-10 or something like that." Like what? Like you'd think that they end up getting blown out. But Florida, they were actually kind of in that game with DJ Lagway throwing 5 interceptions. So their offense was so unbelievably bad, and I don't think they're going to be as bad this week. And the thing with Florida's defense was really, really good. Their defense was really good. The other reason that I think that Florida will be in this game is that I think Mario Cristobal will keep them in this game. He is a terrible in-game head coach, and I think that he's going to make some really boneheaded decisions. Like people talk about James Franklin being a bad in-game head coach, but not nearly as many people talk about that with Mario Cristobal. Like I think he's going to keep them in this game, more so than Florida is going to keep themselves in the game. And I just think they're going to keep it kind of close. Like I think Miami probably wins outright, but I think it's going to go similar to how it went against Notre Dame, which is that Miami's just going to Cristobal's going to keep this a game.
Yeah, I mean, the counterpoint is they absolutely railroaded a team that just beat Florida on Saturday. They destroyed South Florida.
Right.
But also, yes, but I think that might have been said more about LSU than it did about Florida. But
I think it said a fair amount about both. But look, Florida's been the same type of team for at least 5 or 10 years. And the pattern that I've noticed about Florida, usually not so much last year because they had a little bit of a weird quarterback situation, but they are a team that usually plays up to their competition. Like they play some of the top teams in the SEC better than you expect them to.
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand Miami's not an SEC team, but I think they're going to show up for this game.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, my 5-point play. Listen, a rivalry game to me. You look at a lot of rivalry games, and they're always close to me, no matter what the situation is. I mean, you just have to look at Michigan, Ohio State last year. Games like that, a rivalry game will always tend to be closer than normal. Washington State, who is not good, but they're playing their biggest rivals, Washington. Disgraceful that this is happening in week 3. This is an end of season kind of game. Anyway, Washington State is getting 20.5 points against Washington. I'm not that sold on Washington. Washington might be another remember when team.
Yeah.
And I'm not sold on Washington at all. And 20.5 in a rivalry game, I have to take that. So my 5-point pick is Wazoo getting 20.5 against Washington.
Yeah. Yeah, I very much agree with that logic. I didn't pick it, but I very much agree with it. All right, my 5-point play, I am heading out west. Arizona State, Baylor, over 60.5.
Yes,
I love the over here. Yeah. Baylor, what was the score in Baylor SMU? It was like something
44-41.
Yeah. It was Baylor is always getting into shootouts. And I think the same thing is going to happen here. It's going to be a classic Big 12, classic Big 12 matchup.
Yes.
I love the over here at 60 and a half.
Yeah, I like that pick too. I did not have that on the card, but I yes, love that pick. Yeah, they're an over team, and Arizona State have a good offense,
And
and
Baylor always gives up a lot of points. Always
always
gives up a lot of points.
perpetually. Even when they had the team with RG3, their defense was terrible. Um, yes, they're a perpetual over team. I mean, the Big 12 is just a perpetual over league, no matter what.
Yeah,
Um,
the only Big 12 team that is not an over team, I would say, is Iowa State.
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember a few years ago, like there was like this streak that people didn't really talk about, but I noticed it that Iowa State games just kept going under, and it was for like 9 weeks straight or something like that. It was insane. Iowa
yeah.
State unders just kept hitting.
I think they're just allergic to overs in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, it must be
Um,
something. Yeah, it must be. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I think that's actually. I think there's some science behind that, which is that I think that in Iowa, maybe like in Iowa, it's harder to recruit offensive players. That might be a
yeah,
thing. Like it seems like in that region of the country, their offenses really just aren't very good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I agree with that over Big 12. By the way, speaking of the Big 12, because of this big noon kickoff insanity, Texas Tech and Utah, which is a massive game that could decide who goes to the Big 12 championship later in the season, but starts at 10 a.m. in Utah. Kicks off at 10 in the morning in Salt Lake
Yeah.
City. Insanity.
How do they? Are Utah students? They're not like BYU students. They can like drink in tailgates, right?
I think so, but I'm not sure. But I think like so it's not a requirement to be Mormon to go to the school, which I think it is for BYU. But I mean, most people in Utah are Mormon, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think Utah is a little worse, but yeah. But that was like when ASU won the Big 12 championship last year. The game started at 10 o'clock in the morning in Tempe. It
Yeah.
wasn't in Arizona, but it was brutal. Uh, but yes, that's going to be a crazy one. All right, let's move on to the league where they play for pay. My 1 point pick: the Colts are 2-0. The Titans are 0-2. The Colts have looked good through their first two games. The Titans have looked bad through their first two games. I don't understand how on earth the Colts can only be a 3.5 point favorite against the Titans. And for that reason, I have to take Tennessee. It's an all-time rat line. They're begging you to take the Colts. They're -3.5. They've been better than Tennessee. I don't understand the line at all. So I have to take the Titans. This is a game where they're begging you to take Indianapolis. And those games normally Vegas knows a lot more than we do. So I'm going to take the Titans +3.5 against Indianapolis.
I actually have the same pick. I didn't realize we had the same pick, but yes, I have the exact same pick. I love Tennessee in this matchup. Not only is it like you're right, they're begging you to take Indianapolis, but the truth is, I think usually after a couple of games when a team looks good, especially playing at home in against teams that aren't good, or at least favorable matchups, they're usually like I don't think Indianapolis is as good as people think they are.
Right. And
Um,
they won two games. For perspective, they beat Miami, who looked awful again, and the second game they won because of a leverage penalty.
yeah,
So yeah,
against Denver, who I don't even know. Like, I think Denver is an extremely overrated team. I think
Mhm.
they're going to be 8-9, 9-8, something hover around that range. I don't think they're going to be much better than that. And don't forget they played their first two games at home. Now they're going on the road. Denver struggled. I mean, Denver ended up winning by 8 against Tennessee, but they really struggled for 3 quarters in that
Yeah,
game. Like they didn't really play all that well. So it's not just that I think it's a rat line, which it definitely is, but I think that look, whenever a line feels too easy, if it definitely it's not.
it
It's not
always is.
like if you think it's too easy, it's not. Vegas knows something, and I think these teams are probably a little closer than you might think. Like
Yeah,
like I think that they're. I could see Tennessee. I think the Colts are probably going to win outright, but I think it's going to be close. I think the Colts are going to struggle a bit. I think they're going to come back down to earth. I think we'll see a
yeah,
little more
yeah.
of the Daniel Jones that we know.
Right. Which that happened with Sam Darnold too. Not Minnesota, but In Carolina, he won his first 3 games and looked terrific, and then it just sort of completely fell off a cliff. The September football now is sort of like an extension of the preseason in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not too keen on that. Um, my 2-point play. This game is going to suck. This game is going to be awful. Vikings laying 2.5 against the Bengals. Neither team has a quarterback right now. Neither team is playing their starter. The Bengals look finished, I guess. Joe Burrow is going to be out for the year. They have Jake Browning coming in, who has played okay for them. But I just like the Vikings in this spot at home versus the Bengals, who I think were sort of bolstered by sort of the end of that game, like a rally around Burrow kind of thing. I don't think that's going to carry over into week 2. This is going to be a terrible game. It's probably going to go way under. Whatever the over-under is going to be pretty low. But I like the Vikings here. I mean, the Vikings were really unimpressive on Sunday. I think they'll have a little bit of a bounce back. And, both these teams don't have a quarterback. So it's going to really just come down to whoever's backup or whoever's defense really plays better. And I think I trust the Vikings defense way, way more than I trust the Bengals defense.
Yeah. Also, Carson Wentz is going to be playing. Weird career from Carson Wentz. Really weird career. He was the Eagles ended up risking their whole future to draft him, and he was one of the better young quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, that injury.
And then he had Then he had that he never fully recovered from his injury. But I don't know. Maybe he can still play.
I mean, I actually do think that it's sometimes definitely, and he wasn't terrible in Washington, but he just, and if you remember, he had that game with the Colts where they had to win to get in the playoffs, and they played the Jaguars, who had like 1 win, and they ended up losing. With Wentz, I mean, in fairness to the Eagles risking their whole future, they did, not because of Wentz, but they did end up winning Super Bowl that year. But
I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it. Right. I'm just saying that
it's sort of because of Wentz, because he got them to the record they had in the regular season. But that injury really fucked his career, I think. And I mean, the fact that then the Eagles then lost their MVP and then went straight to Jalen Hurts is it's crazy. But yeah, I got the Vikings minus 2.5.
All right. So my 2 pick is I like the Chiefs minus 6.5 against the Giants. The Chiefs are now 0-2. Playing the Giants might end up being the one of possibly the, I haven't looked at the Chiefs schedule, but possibly the easiest matchup the Chiefs have to actually play, the easiest team that they have to actually play. This is a motivated Chiefs team that is going to, an 0-2 Chiefs team. An 0-2 Chiefs team is going to be a lot more dangerous than a 2-0 Chiefs team. So I think the Chiefs end up winning this by 2 touchdowns or more. The Giants offense looked really, really good last week. I think it might say more about the Cowboys defense than the Giants offense. And it's not going to look like that every week. I think it's going to look somewhere in the middle between what we saw last week and what we saw 2 weeks ago. It's probably what the Giants offense is. And I think the Chiefs are I think with the public just overreacting to the Chiefs being 0-2, I think they're just going to, I think the Chiefs are going to kill them at MetLife. I think it might even look similar. Well, not quite as bad, but somewhat similar to the Jets-Bills game.
Yeah, I actually think that too. I agree with that. And the Chiefs, if you look at the Chargers schedule, the Chiefs kind of have to start winning because the Chargers have a chance to run away that division. Yeah, the Chiefs have surprised me, but the Chiefs have also played the Chargers, who I think are a good team I think they're probably going to win that division now. And the Eagles.
So the Eagles on the road, and they could have won. By the way,
no. It was in Kansas City.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The Eagles at home. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It was Eagles at home. But still, the Eagles are, they're one of the favorites to come out of the NFC. Yeah. And maybe if Travis Kelce doesn't drop that pass in the end zone, the Chiefs win that game. So
yeah, that was he's.
I mean, in fairness, a lot of teams would be 0-2 if they had those 2 games.
Correct. And the Chiefs will get better. Travis Kelce also may be karma for him wearing a free Rice.
What a bunch of idiots
for the game.
They're making it sound like he was in trouble for weed or something. He could have killed somebody.
It really nuts. Yeah, I agree with that pick. All right, my 3-point play. Listen, I don't. The Jaguars are not a great team. They just aren't. The Texans. I know they lost the first two games, but they played two good teams in the first two games. I think they're going to have to bounce back at some point. I think they're going to win this game against the Jaguars. They should have won the game last night, frankly. Uh, Tampa, besides the last drive, Tampa tried to hand that game to the Texans.
That was
Really tried to hand
that
that
was
game.
unbelievable. I was watching that game. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, Tampa Bay almost lost that game with their special teams
It was
alone.
terrible.
It was terrible. And by the way, for two plays in the row, for two drives in a row, they spotted Stroud in field goal range.
Yes, and one of them, and they didn't. The fact they didn't score on that blocked punt that's why almost one of the reasons why they lost the game. The fact that they had to kick a field goal there.
But the
They
thing
got
is,
a blocked punt at the 30-yard line and kicked the field goal.
because when Nick Chubb scored that touchdown, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal if they had been midfield. Maybe at the very best, they get a field goal that drive, but they weren't really passing well. I mean, the Texans receivers were not getting open, and Stroud was not accurate late in that game. The Texans offense, they were not working very well, but the Bucks just kept them in that game, really just with the special teams. I mean, I had the Bucks. I think they were my money line pick, or I had them plus 2.5. Yeah, they might have been my money line pick. So I was going crazy with that. But I also think the Texans are a little overrated. I don't think they're that good. I think they were a little hung up on how good they looked 2 years ago. I think they're going to be a playoff team because their division kind of sucks. I'm very in the middle on this. I didn't pick it because I'm kind of in the middle. On one hand, they're 0-2, and they really got to win this game. And I think that's true. On the other hand, the Jaguars, they're really not all that bad. They're really not all that bad, and I could see them win. And so I can kind of see this game.
Not that good either, though, but yeah.
Yeah, no. They're not all that good either. What is this, 3-unit pick? I'm taking the Bills minus 12.5.
Yeah.
I love the Bills here. The thing with Miami is I have to stop believing in them, and I did. I stopped believing in Miami. The thing with Miami, even when they were good, everything had to be perfect for them to win games. You know what I mean? Like the weather had to be good. They had to play the weather had to be nice. They had to play at home. Every possible thing had to go right for them in order for them to win games. And I just think the Bills are going to end up, from the way the Dolphins have looked, I don't know how I can trust them at all. They made Daniel Jones look like Peyton Manning. They couldn't beat the Patriots, who aren't such a great team either. I mean, the Dolphins are approaching Jets level from the way that they've been looking, and I think the Bills are going to kill them.
Yeah, and the Bills are approaching Patriot level of dominance in the division.
Yeah,
this will be their 6th straight year winning the division. They're going to win the division. I think they're 24-5 or something in the last 9 divisional games. By the way, we talked about how good the Jets have played versus the Bills. 5th straight cover for the Bills against the Jets on Sunday. My next pick, both these defenses stink. So this is a low number to me. Bears, Cowboys over 49.5. Both these defenses are terrible. The Bears defense is really terrible. But the Cowboys defense, they just gave, you can look at it as many ways, but they just gave up 37 points in regulation because they didn't score in overtime to the Giants.
Yeah.
Who barely scored 6. They'd scored 12 points over the last 3 season openers. They have 37 points to that team. I said that I thought the Giants, it would take them 4 weeks to get 41 points. They almost got it against the Cowboys. Bears defense is terrible. Bears off. Caleb Williams, they put up 21 points last week. They put up 20 points on Monday. That's all they need to do, in my opinion, because I think the Cowboys are going to score a lot. Over 49.5. This is an easy one for me.
I think the line is as low as it is, and I very much agree with you that the line seems kind of low. I think a lot of it is a bit of an anti-Caleb Williams thing because, late in the game, Caleb Williams has just been so he's been so bad in certain spots that I think I guess that might probably affect it a little bit too. So my 4-unit pick, love the Chargers here, minus 2.5. against the Broncos. Overall, I think look, the Chargers have looked really good. They've looked really good. They're 2-0 now. And I think a lot of this is look, I think the Chargers, especially with Joe Burrow's injury, I think they're probably going to be the top wild card team coming out of the AFC. But a lot of this is that I just don't think Denver's that good. I think Denver at the very best, I think Denver is really just a mediocre team. I don't think they're that good. I mean, they just lost to the Colts because of because of a stupid penalty,
Mhm.
gave that game away. And I don't really get like they beat the Titans. They haven't looked that good, so they didn't look good in really either. They didn't look great in either of those games, and they weren't against good teams. Uh, I love the Chargers here minus the 2.5. It's essentially just to pick them.
Yeah. Yeah. My 5 point play, I don't care where this game is played. Or sorry, I don't care who's playing in this game. I should be saying I care about where the game is played. The Commanders are likely not going to have Jaden Daniels, but the Raiders, again, West Coast team playing in the 10 a.m. time slot or 1 p.m. in the East Coast, which I again hate the team that goes 3 time zones. The Raiders look terrible against the Chargers last night. Their offensive line is terrible. Quarterback play was terrible. Brock Bowers is playing hurt. I don't care who plays, honestly, for the Commanders minus 2.5 to lay the 2.5. I'm going to lay it. I think that the time zone, the fact the Raiders are not a good team, give me the Commanders laying 2.5.
They're laying 3.5 actually.
Well, when I took it, it was 2.5.
Well, I'm sure you don't care if it's three and
I'll
a half.
take 3.5 though.
You
Yeah.
take 3.5? Okay. My 5-unit pick, Lions, Ravens over 51.5.
Love that.
First of all, this is going to be an offensive matchup. The Lions just put up 52 points against the
Mhm.
Bears. The Lions, I mean, I think people are overreacting a little bit to the whole, might be overreacting a little bit to the whole coordinator change thing.
Mhm.
Like people are talking about that a lot. I don't know if it's going to make that big of a difference. Uh, I, but also a lot of this is just that the Ravens, like, not only do they score a lot of points, but they give up a lot of points, especially in big spots like they did against the Bills. Like I feel like late in that game against the Bills, uh, the Ravens defense couldn't stop anything at all, and it was like a one-way ticket to the end zone for Josh Allen. I could see a similar type of thing happening here. This is gonna be a very big offensive matchup. It's only 51.5. It's not that high of an over-under. I love I and just like last year, I think it's going to be for the first half of last season. The Ravens gave up a ton of points. I think the same thing is going to happen here. I could see both teams putting up. I think both teams probably put up over 30.
Yeah, I love that pick. All right, it is time to go to the money line underdog of the week. Listen, this one to me is quite simple. It is more of an anti-Indiana pick than it is pro-Illinois, but I'm going to take Illinois. Get Illinois plus 160 on the money line to go into Indiana and win. I mean, I just am not that high on Indiana this year, being a team that can compete for the Big Ten and going into the playoff uh, as they did last year. So I like Illinois to go into Bloomington and get a W there.
Yeah, I don't think Indiana is going to have the same season they did
No.
last year. Like I said, they're going to be probably going to be another. Excuse me. They're probably going to be another remember when team.
I mean, I like what Signetti's done there, but yeah,
No, I do too. I think Kurt Cignetti is a good head coach. He's turned the team around, but I think they were a little. I think Indiana was a little bit like SMU last year. Like,
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
they played a schedule. They played a fairly easy schedule, and
Mhm.
then against the bet, and then in their tough games, they just laid an egg. They weren't even close. Um, and yeah, I gotta tell you, I kind of agree with that. I didn't pick it, but I kind of agree with that. My money line winner for the week, and we picked this. You picked this game earlier. Love Dallas.
Yeah,
I love Dallas here.
yeah, I would.
The Bears just stink. They are like the Bears. They can't even like I think a lot of people were talking about JJ McCarthy last Monday night, and it's just like I think that game may have said more about the Bears than it did about JJ McCarthy.
Yeah,
Like
agreed.
Caleb Williams. The thing with Caleb Williams is that he's talented. He shows flashes where he looks good, but he
Mhm.
can't play 60 minutes of football, it feels like.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like he can't play a full game without
Yeah.
falling apart. And I have no reason to believe that's not going to happen again against Dallas. Like, I just don't trust the Bears at all. I can't trust this team.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I said it on the first episode of the show. I think the Cowboys over is going to hit. I think the Cowboys are going to win more games than people think they are, mainly because their schedule is really easy, and this is one of the games. I mean, and
Yeah.
the Bears, I just think are terrible. I mean, the Bears are one of the worst teams in the NFL right now, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And like you said, I mean, what Minnesota put up 9 points on Sunday,
Mhm.
so that loss looks worse and worse. Yeah, I completely agree with that. All right. It is time now to go to the locks of the week. So I actually have two locks, but I'm only going to use one on the show because I know we have a lot of viewers in the New York, New Jersey area, and this game will be unavailable in New Jersey. So for an unofficial lock, I really, if this game was not in New Jersey, I would take it as my lock. I really like Iowa laying 2.5 at Rutgers on Friday night.
Actually, I actually have I've had that game, but a slightly different.
What
Uh,
do you have?
I have Iowa. I would have taken the Iowa Rutgers under. I think it's like 45 and a half.
Gotcha.
But I can't pick that game because I live in New Jersey. So,
Yeah.
which I don't understand why that's even a thing. I can bet
Yeah.
on. I don't understand why you can't bet in your own state.
Well, and it's only certain places because like I've been in Arizona and bet on Arizona State games. It's only certain states, New York and New Jersey, two of them. But my official lock for the show, you talked about it earlier. Completely disagree. Actually, right now, if I had to bet a team because of odds to win the national championship, I would bet on this team, Miami, the U, minus 7.5. I think Florida are going to have one of those years where they're going to really fall downhill. Napier will definitely go at the end of the year, but I think Florida's going to fall apart. Give me Miami minus 7.5. I love them. I think they're a really good team. My college lock of the week, Miami minus 7.5.
All right. Yeah, we very much disagree. My lock, and I don't think you pick. Yeah, you didn't pick this game. Love Notre Dame minus 4.5, 24.5 versus Purdue.
Thought about it. Yep.
Notre Dame is. Here's the thing. Notre Dame is a complicated team. Every year they're a complicated team. It's like last year they lost to Northern Illinois. Everybody thought it's over for Notre Dame, and then they ended up destroying their competition for like the rest of the season. And Notre Dame is the type of team where after they give you a reason to doubt them, they end up giving you a reason to believe in them. No, Purdue is a perfect team to do that against because they're at the bottom of the Big Ten. They're terrible. I think Notre Dame's just going to kill them. I think they have no margin for error. It doesn't even just matter that they win these games. It matters how they win. So
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame is just going to, I think they're going to beat Purdue by like 4 touchdowns or more.
This is a game, and I think this will make sense to you. It won't make sense to people watching unless they have really bet college football for a while. I think that'll make sense. This is a game where if Notre Dame was 0-2, I would take Notre Dame. If they were 2-0, I would take Purdue.
Yeah.
Because Notre Dame is constantly, when they're good, they're constantly in a war with a bad team at home.
Yeah.
Like they always have a week where they're in a war with a bad team.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're 0-2, I think changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Northern Illinois was that team last year. Yeah, so I actually thought about that. I agree with you. I'm sort of staying off of those off-thick lines right now. All right, my lock of the week, again, it goes with the theme that I really don't like teams crossing 3 time zones. I went against this team last Sunday. I'm going with them this Sunday. Eagles laying 3.5 against the LA Rams. I think the Rams are a good team, but again, that 1 o'clock window for a West Coast team, I hate. I think the Eagles are going to be a really good team throughout the regular season. Only laying 3.5 for an Eagle home game against the Rams, even when they should have lost last year, they still won the game by 5 points. So give me the Eagles -3.5 for my NFL lock of the week.
So my NFL lock of the week, I am going the opposite of what I did last week in the Jet game. Going Bucks -7. I love Tampa Bay minus the touchdown in this game. The Jets just are completely dysfunctional. I mean, Justin Fields just went he completed less than 30% of his passes against Buffalo. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be as big of a blowout. The Bucks are a pretty good team, though. I mean, the Texans shouldn't even have been in that game. They were in that game just because of special teams errors, and that was basically just because of terrible special teams. They kept them in that game. I think the Bucks are going to. I think the Bucks will win by probably 2 scores against the Jets. I don't see it with the Jets.
Yeah,
It's going to be bad. The Jets are almost Panthers level bad.
they are. Yeah, they have been awful. They were terrible on Sunday. Just a bad situation there right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Those are our picks for the week. Good luck, everyone, if you're betting it, and we will see you next Tuesday on Unnecessary Wagers.
See you guys.